All right, guys. Today I have a book review for you guys. Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. Now, you guys, let's be real. I know we're supposed to read books in our genre as authors. So I love writing fantasy and dystopian stuff. And Brandon Sanderson is kind of the leading name for all of that. So I feel like I should be reading a lot of him. The honest truth is, I don't really enjoy his books often, which is tough because then I feel like I'm out of the loop on the whole world of Sanderson. But I haven't really loved a lot of his books, so I was excited when people were saying Tress of the Emerald Sea is a lot different than his other stories, and I wanted to give it a try. And so I want to share with you guys today kind of what my thoughts are on this. First of all, I loved the quirky style. I think that this was really, he said in the back or something like that, that he got inspired by Princess Bride, that really quirky writing style where he's kind of interrupting himself. There's an unreliable narrator narrating the story as we go along. So some of the details get jumbled. It's engaging and it's unique. And I really liked that. I thought the narrator at some points he was just straight up rude and I didn't appreciate the rudeness, but he was engaging and he was definitely not a normal narrator, which made it really interesting to me. So, quirky style, check. That's a star in its favor. The second thing that I really liked was the concept of the spores. So, to back up, Tress of the Emerald Sea takes place on a planet that does not have water oceans. They have spore oceans, which are kind of like sand oceans. But each of these little grains of sand or these spores have different properties when they get wet. So, like the green spores will explode into plants, the red spores will explode into something else. So this whole planet, it's has these kind of sandy seas that wave, and there, I thought that that was very, very creative. The main character in this book lives in the Emerald Sea, Tress of the Emerald Sea, and so this is a very fascinating world concept for me, a world that doesn't have water oceans. And in fact, if water hits the ocean, things start to get a little crazy because then the spores start exploding. You get plant explosions or um, whatever other explosions happen in these kinds of places. The concept of the spores, I felt like could be like you could do a lot in this world with these things. It made me want to think of more grains of sands and magic in my own world. And I know Brandon Sanderson, a lot of people talk about how fascinating it is, his systems of magic. This was, I think, a good example of that. I really thought the spore idea was fascinating. One of the, the reasons sometimes I get frustrated with Sanderson is because his worlds aren't always pretty. And when I'm reading things, I want just a very like visually engaging plot. And I thought this was very pretty. And Emerald Sea it was lovely. So I was excited about that. So yeah, loved this forest concept. Another star for me for that. And thirdly, I really, really, really liked the main character. Tress, she's a girl who washes windows. She's, nobody crazy. And at one point, he even says, like, she didn't fence in secret. And I think he's kind of making fun of a lot of the hair, these characters that we have who are so like she's a girl, but she can fence and she can do all these things. And I love strong female characters, but I also just liked having a protagonist who is incredibly ordinary. She washed windows, she didn't have a lot of experience. Sword fighting, she couldn't punch at all. Like she's not really good at that kind of thing. But she's this character of this crazy adventure story. And she because she starts out so ordinary and she loves just sitting and drinking her teacups or her cups. She's got a cup collection. And she's very sweet and normal. And I love that as a character because she's different now than a lot of characters that we read about. She's unique. And then because of that starting point, as she goes through the story, she sails through these incredible dangers. She meets different people along the way. Because of that, I think you're able to see a really strong growth pattern. And you can say, maybe for better or for worse, she learns a lot of different things along the way that change who she is. And that makes a very engaging story instead of having a character who's like, I think sometimes nowadays we can have characters who are a little too overpowered too quickly without effort, which, human beings are insane. We're capable of some really cool things, but it often takes a lot of effort. And so having a character who is capable of really cool things, but it takes her a lot of effort, it's refreshing. It was really fun to see. I loved Tress. I thought she was a fascinating character to follow. So she got another star for me for sure. A big glowy star. That's amazing. So I'd give the book 3 stars. Let's talk about two things I didn't love quite as much about the story. And that was number one, it was gross. Like there were times, not always, but there were times when just things would happen that were nasty. Like the spores would explode and like plants would be growing out of people and it was gross looking. Like they're dying in horrible ways. And um, again, fascinating visual with the spores exploding into different things, but like a plant exploding and then, but yeah, the gross parts I just felt like were a little unnecessarily disgusting. Um, we didn't, yeah, wasn't my favorite. Didn't love it. And just in general, I think the even the narrator sometimes would just say things that just were kind of disgusting and like I don't know. I just didn't get the point and I didn't really enjoy it. Didn't feel like it added to the story. So that, not like that was a negative. Um, the other thing was that I felt like his characters weren't as compelling beyond Tress. Like the other characters we meet, the different sailors on these seas, it's fun to meet them, but and we're kind of given what makes them tick. But they didn't seem like people, they just did not seem compelling. They seemed a little flat. They would have like one thing that they were going after, and they felt one-dimensional because of that regards. I don't want to give away the ending, but I will say sometimes it seems like Sanderson is okay with some really weaker characters, and Tress really shone in this book because she's a dynamic character who started out ordinary but grew quite a bit throughout this all. So she shines beautifully against kind of a cast of very bland characters, in my opinion. Um, One thing that bothers me when we're trying to write cool women is instead of making the female character really empowered or have a beautiful growth journey or, really highlighting how they've transformed, sometimes what writers will do is they will weaken the characters around the person to make the main character look cooler. This, I feel like, is weak writing and really a discredit to women because women, like, we can be cool, guys, we can. And when you have everyone around us weakening to try to make the female protagonist look cooler, it's kind of an insult. Like, we don't do this for other characters. Stop doing, like, we don't do this for guys. Stop doing this for girls, okay? Um, so in this book, the bland, like, back cast it wasn't my favorite. And I felt like there was a little bit of that. Everyone around her is kind of wimpy or stupid. And so it makes her look even better. I did love Tress. I thought she was a really compelling character. But it bothered me that the background cast was made so bland to make her shine. And I don't know that this is what Brandon Sanderson was trying to do. So I'm not trying to say he was trying to weaken the rest of his cast to make Tress look good. I think he made a cast that was engaging for him, but I just didn't enjoy it as much, partly because of all the other things I've seen with weakened characters around a strong female protagonist. But that being said, again, I want to reiterate, I did love Tress. I just thought that, yeah, I wish that I would have loved more characters, not just Tress. There was one other character, a little rat character that I thought he was interesting. Yeah, he was interesting. He's not my favorite, but he was a little bit more interesting than the rest of them. But so basically, I think at the end of the day, I would give Tress of the Emerald Sea 3 out of 5 star review. I tried not to give too much away, so hopefully there were not that many spoilers at all in the story. It's just very vague world building. If you're interested in giving it a read, definitely check it out. It's different than Brandon Sanderson's other works, I will agree. Um, I think it's a little bit twisty and turny, so um, it might, that kind of quirky style might not be your cup of tea, but it might be. So if that sounds engaging, definitely check it out. Let me know what you thought of the book if you have read it as well. I'd like to hear other people's perspectives on how the story went, and I'll see you guys next time.